Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're all about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He has worked for numerous wrestling promotions, such as the NWA, WCW, and WWE. I'm pleased to welcome the one, the only, Chuck Coates to Wrestling with Heart. Welcome, Chuck.
Hey, welcome. And I'm glad to be here. And
Yes.
glad that we're able to do this.
Yes, it's my pleasure. So tell me about your childhood. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Durham, North Carolina, and Raleigh, Durham, the Triangle. Most people know the area from basketball, the Tobacco Road, they call it, with Duke and UNC and State and Wake Forest, right here on top of each other. So born and raised here, spent about 15 years down towards Charlotte in a small town called Concord, and then came back home. And I'll tell you about it later. Once I got sick, I came back home to be treated, because being from Duke, you think about Duke University and the doctors and hospitals, and so no place I'd rather be than to be back home for that. So
Yeah, I mean, I've been in North Carolina several times. Great city, great state, great state. And I love the areas like Charlotte, Winston-Salem, Concord, like you mentioned earlier. So it's a great wrestling town as well.
yeah, I do a lot of the podcasts. Sometimes it's overseas, and I remember if somebody's in Australia or New Zealand, or I have to actually, you can't just say Durham, because they're like, you have to actually name like Durham, North Carolina, USA, but being you're in Nashville, right?
Yes.
So you already know next door neighbors, North Carolina and Tennessee, and where I live is almost, not directly in the center, but enough where I'm 3.5 hours from the coast. So there's your beach, and I'm about 3.5 hours from the mountains. So there's your mountains. So we have North Carolina's unique in that you could have up in the mountains with snow one weekend, and springtime rolls around, summertime you could be laid out at the beach, all in the same seasons, or not season but year. So that's a part of living here is kind of unique, the area we live in. But just pretty much. I'm familiar with Tennessee with wrestling, and spent a lot of time in the eastern part of the state when I was wrestling for NWA, and then some of the independent promotions around. So, and then we've been to Nashville a few times, my wife and I, and got to visit Country Music Hall of Fame, and went to a football game, and so really nice area.
Yeah. Well, what really got you interested in professional wrestling? Was it something you enjoyed as a kid and just decided, hey, I want to do this?
My dad, he was a wrestling guy, and back then, I'm 57, so we're talking in the 70s even. He came on here at 11:30 in this area. We watched the Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling with Bob Cottle, and back as far as Jack Mulligan and the Mass Superstar, and Jimmy Snuka and Gene Anderson. And so my dad would watch it on Saturday night, and I just kind of sometimes would stay, and he let me stay up and watch it. But as I got a little older, he would tell me, you're going to get, do well on your test. You're going to study for your math multiplication, because math was tough with me. But the way he would get me is, you learn, whatever that week was, you learn those, tell me those, and you can watch wrestling. So if I didn't get them right, I didn't watch wrestling. So, buddy, I was on it. It was a good way to get me to do my homework and study, because, I wouldn't choose a spanking over wrestling, but, sometimes you think, wow, I just had something it gave me an incentive to learn, and we got to watch it. And that's when I fell in love with it. And, I tell people, when you're a young boy and the teacher says, what do you want to do when you grow up? A lot of people say, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a firefighter or a football player. And I would have easily raised my hand and said, I want to be a wrestler. And I always, it's nothing that just came up. And I said, hey, I'm going to go to wrestling school and do this. It was a dream. So I can honestly say I lived my dream. And, I had a 20-year career, and, I didn't ever sign the big contract, so I didn't get the big money, but you know what? I lived it. And, I was able to achieve that goal, in my life. And it was like I tell everybody, if you have a dream, go for it. And so just because you're not famous per se, I've had a chance to be in the ring with lots of very famous wrestlers. So that was a dream come true in itself.
Yeah, and you got to live out your dream, sharing the ring with guys like Andre the Giant. I
Yeah.
mean,
It's like it didn't happen. You say it's a surreal moment. And thinking back, and my second match ever on television, coming right out of wrestling school. And so, that's just something that doesn't happen every day. And I had I was sharing my a little bit with here in the past 6 months with Big Show was at one of our Comic-Con. He was doing a autograph thing, and I help out with those with a friend of mine who's a promoter. And so I said, I'm not a shy person, and I'll go up and say, hey, I was training my Nelson Royal and I wrestled for WCW, blah, blah. But I said, one of my cool moments was Andre. I got in the ring, and I'll have a picture on my phone so he knows I'm not just saying it. And he looked at me and said, not many people have done that. He said, job guy, top guy, whatever. Not many people in this industry can say they got in the ring with Andre. So they said, you got something that a lot of people don't have. And that was pretty cool, him telling me that. And because, his time came along later after Andre was gone, but that he was the giant in this generation, in this, particular era. But, back in my time, Andre was the main attraction, the feature. I mean, they say he never really signed with a promotion because everybody wanted him. So he just moved around. Yeah, he was an attraction, and they would just figure it out, whether it was Japan or whether it was AWA, NWA, WWF, whatever. He would work something out, and they would fly him and get him in, and he was all over the place. He didn't have a deal with really nobody, but such an amazing. I can go on about Andre all day, but like I said, people say, what was it like? And I say, it was like a refrigerator with arms grabbing a hold of me. And that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
He was big as a refrigerator, and he's tall. And I mean, I think he was 7 foot even when I wrestled with him. And he was 7'4" when he started, and he had multiple back surgeries to relieve pressure and pain. And so, you get shorter as you get older. They say he was right at 7 foot before he died. So, but overall, it's just like I said, I look back and think, wow, that really happened. That was me. And so, really cool experience. There's so many more, but that was the one that sticks out, above all, because it was Andre, and it's such an amazing experience.
When you're wrestling, when you're training to be this wrestler, you got to really get conditioned. Training is just tough. It's intense. What was your experience like learning how to wrestle?
I remember my first workout. One of my real good friends got into bodybuilding. So Wayne Hall was his name, and he wanted to bodybuild, and I wanted to wrestle. So guess what? We teamed up and started workout partners and such. He had a girl. He had his, what he wanted to do, and his goals were set. My goals were set. So we worked out together, and he was a big influence on me because he would come get me when I said, I don't feel like me. You're going to feel like it. He would get me in there, and we would do our workouts. And but we started. That was probably 1987, and right out of high school. And then from then on, it just kind of took over once I got to a certain point, and I was accountable for me. He could help me and push me, but eventually we split up. He did his thing, and I went on my way. And then it was up to me to maintain and keep up with what was going on. And of course, with pro wrestling, the physique is in my time, the better you look, the better chance you're going to have to get a break. And I never was really ripped, cut up, shredded like Lex Luger, but I had good size. I stayed around 245, 250, good solid type, you know, wrestler with a good build. But it was, for me, it was, you know, a little bit of a challenge. You had to be very disciplined, and it couldn't be, well, I'm gonna take a day off for this and that. You can take a day off, but you gotta make it just like eating meals. It had to be part of your daily thing. And it got to the point where, I'll be honest with you, when 2000 rolled around, 2001, 2, I got to the point where it was almost, I couldn't get big enough. I couldn't get, tan. I couldn't get dark enough to look. I wanted to be a big time, number one top guy in the wrestling so bad. I was willing to do whatever, and I sacrificed time with my family. I sacrificed. It was just weightlifting was it. And I had to work a job, and I was going to the gym. Unless I was definitely ill, I was going to be in the gym, and it was 3 hours a day, 2.5 with cardio and sanding and all. So I was in the gym 3 hours a day. With that all together, and it's like you said, it's just an everyday thing. So that was what it was like in my time. It was just as sure as you're going to go eat breakfast and lunch, I was going to be in the gym that afternoon, and even got a part-time job working in the local gym in Concord when I was living there, and helped run that place. And in return, I got a free membership. So man, that was awesome. Trade for trade, but it was a commitment. And then, I'll get to the bout with cancer later, but then that came along and my whole world changed. So, my priorities and everything, but we're talking about wrestling right now, but it was, very, intense. Had to be every day, and you just go out there and get it done, and then take off, whatever town we were in that weekend, or because my schedule was fluctuated. Independent wrestling, I was booked on mainly Saturday, maybe some Fridays, Saturday night. And then the TVs we did was Monday, Tuesday. So the way WCW did it was, if we were in Gainesville, Georgia, we might be in Columbus, Georgia. If we were in Columbia, South Carolina, we might be in Charleston, South Carolina. We were the South, Mid-Atlantic, Southern part. So
regional, yeah.
Regional, because, they had groups of guys. Rip Rogers had a guy out in Indiana, that area. Rip Rogers was kind of like the agent that got all the enhancement guys together. My agent was Gene Ligon, the original Thunderfoot. Actually, number 2, Joel Deaton was the original Thunderfoot, but Gene was the guy I answered to, and he would take, it was usually 15, 20 of us. We'd go and check in, and they would let us know if we wrestled. You get paid regardless. And some nights I was off. But most of the time, I got a chance to wrestle because I felt like I did something right because I stayed busy. They always tell you if you don't do good, they won't call you back. Well, for 2 years straight, I had a good run with WCW and in WWF at the time when we're talking late '80s. During the time, Ultimate Warrior and Hulk and Macho and Roddy Piper, and when they were all going strong, even before Attitude Era, way before that. And that's when Andre was tagging with Haku. And so that's when I was getting broken in real well. And then the rest is history, 20 years later. I had a real good career. I don't have any regrets. It was fun. And so that's that on that. It was a good time.
It's a commitment, and you really have to put 100, if not even more than 110% into what you're doing. So to stay on that regimen, it's like riding a bicycle. You're on that, the adrenaline kicks in, and you have to put out, and you really had to do everything you could to stay in shape and stay on top for as long as you were in wrestling. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, you're right. It is like riding a bicycle, but I will tell you this. Last year, I decided to do one more match to see what I could. I was asked to do it. My wife's like, "Don't do it. You just go out there and get hurt." And all. And I thought, well, it's nothing to it. I've did it for so long. And yeah, it's like riding a bicycle, but I'm gonna tell you, you cannot do it. You cannot do the same thing the ways you used to do it because the bumps and stuff came natural. But I still, to this day, and that was last March. It was over a year ago. Till this day, I can feel when I do my neck. It's just I get older, and your body just it's like anything else. You just can't take it like you used to. And we all get older, and
your body changes.
Yeah, it does. And I decided, I got my taste of it. I can still do it. And I was happy with that. And that was that. Like I said, it was one of those things. Somebody asked me to do it, and I said, sure. And more or less a little reunion, because about 5 or 6 of the guys I started with were in on it. And it was only a couple hours from home. So I did it and got my feel for it, and I'm happily retired again. So,
who have been some of your favorite opponents to work with over the years?
Well, number one, and I'm gonna tell you a lot of this stuff. When I told you I do these Comic-Cons and conventions, and Tony Hunter's a great friend of mine. He refereed for years. His dad was a wrestler back in the 70s and 80s, and Tony, he's a promoter. He's an agent for these wrestlers, and he's got a whole bunch of 15 or 20 wrestlers he represents. And when he called me and asked me a few years ago, did I want to help him? I said, sure. That way I can stay in touch with the business and stuff. And the reason I'm saying this, when I started doing that, I got to see again some of the guys I wrestled. And of course, sometimes you have to refresh their memories because they've wrestled so many times. But once they start thinking about it, they're like, I think I do remember that. And then for instance, I'll tell you, just recently I had Kurt Angle. We wrestled in 1999 in a dark match. They were getting ready from the shoot wrestling, what he did, to professional wrestling and trying to get him to transition. And so I was I was kind of like guinea pig, go out there and see what you can do. We had 12 minutes. He remembered that. That was neat once we talked about it. And so Kurt and Ricky Steamboat, oh my goodness, man, he made me look like $1 million in my hometown. We wrestled in the Dalton Arena back in 1990. And he was, of course, he's Ricky Steamboat. And here I am, local guy, come in, and he gave me half the match. And then he even got in trouble. He said later on, Paul Jones says, why did you make that kid shine? He said, because if I go out there and squash him, what have I done? He says, this is his hometown. I'm the babyface and all that. He is Steamboat's babyface. So I come out. Well, he gave me reversals and this and that. And we did it. We went home. I mean, everything was great. Sting, I got to see Sting here about 6 months ago. Well, it was the last WrestleCon. And he was like, I've been dropped on my head a few times, refresh my memory. And I told him, WCW, 1990, 91. I said, we had 4 different matches, 2 tags and 3 singles. I mean, 3 singles and 1 tag with him and Luger. And he seemed to remember it, but I mean, I said, word has it that you would actually go to Jody Hamilton, which was the Masked Assassin. He was my boss, and asked for me. He said, well, I may have if you were good. He said, evidently, if I asked for you, you must have been good, but decent. And I was just trying to refresh his memory. By the time we got through talking, he was remembering stuff, and it was neat. And so Sting and Steamboat and Kurt Angle and Hacksaw Duggan, Hardy Boys, which are personal friends of mine, we wrestled one time together before they became, got their break in a tag match. And so I mean, I can go on Nikita Koloff and Jimmy Valiant, Boogeyman, Rock and Roll Express, and Honky Tonk Man, which I was talking about Tennessee. I wrestled him in Kingsport. That was in probably 2002. And so, of course, you mentioned Andre, which was way back. And then Steve Austin, that was his first WCW match from Texas. He came in and was back then they hadn't signed a contract. He was just trying out basically, and to see if they could do something with him. So he came in, he made $500, just like, I made $250. So we were out there, and he was the guy, he was top guy. So he's going over. We had a 7-minute match. Went well. He was stunning. Steve, if you remember, from Hollywood, California. That's in his documentary. He said, I knew that wasn't going to work. As soon as they told me I was from Hollywood, he said, I'm just as country and redneck as you get. And so that was that. And that was a neat experience. And then the rest is history with him. But that night in 1992, who would have ever thought birth of Stone Cold, 5 years later would be off the charts? I mean, who would have known that, And so that was neat. And I mean, golly, man, Kamala, wrestled him, and Boss Man and Akeem, and Bad News Brown, and the Bolsheviks. Just trying to think out lately. Terry Taylor, Larry Zbyszko. I mean, golly, well, I didn't wrestle Dusty, but I took his elbow one night. We did a run-in. I was a Russian assassin. I did a good Russian. All you had to do is I was good size,
Yeah.
Call like Nikita, people loved it. So he took a Dusty elbow, and Van Dam and Sabu got put through a table one night, and just on and on, man. I just keep thinking about
You've
things.
worked with just a who's who of superstars, and especially were an integral part of people that made their name years later, shot to the top. I mean, that's got to
Yeah,
feel good being a part of the early years of these people's
it
careers.
is. We have us the enhancement guys, job guys, whatever they want to call. I don't care. We're pro wrestlers. Like Bob Cook will tell you, we're pro wrestlers. Okay, we got trained just like everybody else. It's just like I said, you're waiting for that break, but we're proud of what we did. Most of us, I speak for most, Barry Horowitz and Rip Rogers and Bob Cook and Pat Rose and George South and all the guys that were Gene Ligon. Oh wow, so many more that were just that far. Because I was that close to getting it. It's just time. It's about timing, and it wasn't my time. It wasn't meant to be. But some people say you almost made it. Well, no, I made it. I just wasn't the starter. You know what I mean? Every football team has two and three, second and third string. And so we were part of that. That's the way I look at it. And but our little fraternity of enhancement guys, we got a lot of really good, capable guys that could have easily got that phone call or could have easily said, like, I was there tonight. Mark Merrow got his break. Mark was just like me. He was out there wrestling, putting people over. Dusty saw him and liked him, and that's where Johnny B. Bad was born. It was in Asheville, North Carolina. And I was right there. He said, I want to do something with you, kid. And they did the whole deal with Teddy Long, and the rest is history. He became Johnny B. Bad, then he became Wild Man Mark Merrow, and then his career took off. So
Yeah.
Just never know. You just never know when somebody's thinking, hey man, I might. But like I said, no regrets. I had a blast, and would do it all over again. It'd be just as encouraged and excited about it the second time if I was a lot younger. Oh, I can't remember. The Steiner brothers wrestled them 3 different times. They were fun. They were they threw you around, and it was snug. I say snug. I wouldn't say they were a little stiff, but I mean, you knew your adrenaline's going, everything's going 100 miles an hour. Sometimes you don't feel it till the next day, but it was fun wrestling those guys because I like that stuff. I like taking bumps, and it was a good time. And how could I forget Beautiful Bobby Eaton? That was an awesome match. And I just keep thinking of people as I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Bobby was amazing. He was nice a guy as he was. Such a kind soul, and would do anything for you. So
He'll be missed for sure.
yeah, but they don't make him like Bobby. He's
No. Incredible
nice to.
talent.
I can't believe he was a heel because he's such a kind person, and here he is trying to be a bad guy. But if you got it in you, just a good guy, you can't really fake that. People can see through that.
No.
He was a pretty amazing guy.
Yep. Well, now you have a story that you wanted to share with us here on the podcast. Tell me about the struggles and how you were able to
Oh,
overcome it.
well, fast forward. We we're talking about the match with Andre, and that was in '89. I just got broke in '87, and fast forward, to 2006. What happened was I was in the state of Virginia. There's other states too. You have to have a license to compete, boxing, wrestling, whatever. You got to have the state regulate. You got to have a license. But you got to get a physical. And they'll sign it saying you're approved for a year, and they make money off of it. But it is what it is. And I didn't have a license, so they told me if you're going to wrestle, I was scheduled to wrestle Lex Luger that night in Galax, Virginia, and this was 2006. And I said, okay, all right. So my license had expired, and the promoter said, if you don't have a license, you can't wrestle. So I went and got got my physical. Doctor said everything was great. You're good to go. But he said, I want you to do me a favor. I said, what's that? He says, I was mashing around and checking you out. And you got a place down in your neck that just it could be nothing, but I want to make sure. He said, I said, well, I don't feel it. He said, you're not going to feel it. It's down in your deep tissue. And what it was my lymph nodes were swollen in my neck here. And so finally, I put it off for about a month or two, and finally went to a specialist like he asked me to. My wife's a nurse, so she was like on me about it. And yeah, I'm thinking, okay, let's get this. I was 38 years old. Let's go do this, get it knocked out, and be done with it. Well, I found out then that he checked it, did a needle biopsy, and it didn't show anything. then he says, we're going to have to do surgery. I said, for what? He said, I want to get a piece of this lymph node and test it. They never mentioned cancer, never. I'm thinking, why are you going to do surgery on something that I didn't understand, because I had never had it, So they did the surgery, and still they didn't say possibly nothing about it. I just thought, what could this be, And if something in there needs to be taken out, take it out. But long story short, it came back. The biopsy came back, and I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a blood cancer. Leukemia and lymphoma and multiple myeloma are 3 blood cancers, and I had the lymphoma. And the reason you can't go in and take it out is because it's in your bloodstream. It's a blood cancer, so it's all over. And it just, when it does, it settles and it just attack. The lymph nodes is where it attacks. So I had to go through. Of course, right then, I was telling you earlier in the podcast, that's where my world stopped. The weightlifting, everything that was so important to me. You got cancer, my eyes, everything. It was like a slamming on brakes in a 200-mile racetrack. I mean, boom. So we had chemotherapy for 6 months, and then we had radiation treatments, and that was throughout the year 2006. And in 2007, I found out that the cancer was gone. I was cancer-free, and the doctor said there's a 90% chance once we got it in remission, which we did, that it won't come back. So 90% chance. Went on about my life. I was married to my wife, and we have kids of our own who are growing up, getting out through high school and going on to do their thing and just living life. I worked a job at a printing company. I thought about going back to wrestling, but I didn't have the passion I used to have at this time. And I was married now, and I wanted to spend time, and my priorities changed. You know what I mean? And so going on about life, everything was good. And then in 2012, I had some pain in my lower back, and I thought, you remember back when the game that we golf was real popular?
Yeah.
I played it like crazy, and with our kids, we're foster parents, and so we had foster children, and I'd play it. It was so fun. And I thought I had tweaked something in my back. So my wife, once again, being a nurse, said, go get that checked out. So I did. And lo and behold, that doggone cancer, that 90%, I was part of the 10%. It came back. Once again, lymphoma, same exact cancer. This time it required a bone marrow transplant. And without getting too medically, all these terminology, it's pretty tough on you. And so went through that in 2012, and same thing really, except, just another brutal year. You've heard the horror stories about cancer. You get sick, you throw up, you just feel like, oh my, it's like having the flu. Chemotherapy is like having the flu. And you have the flu after a full 3-4 days to get better. But it's like having the flu and it's just like not going away. And it just, you don't get any, it's just so, I can't even explain it other than that.
Yep.
And went through all that, and in 2013, I was declared cancer free again. So we're 2-0 against cancer. And I'm thinking, that's got to be it. We're good to go now. So went back to work and just living life like everybody else. And didn't really stay in touch with I stayed in touch with the guys, but let me go back. Let me fast forward. Let me rewind it. 2012 with the cancer. It's the second time. My friend Shane Helms, the Hurricane, he lives over here in Raleigh, outside of Raleigh. He wanted to do something special, and him and my friend Mike Howell and my brother David got together, and we're going to do a benefit because with the the bills and all that stuff, everything piles up, and I've never been one to ask for help. I'm too proud, I guess. But they said we're going to do this show and benefit you. And if you ever want to look at it, it's called Chinlock for Chuck. That's the name of it. Chinlock for Chuck, which is me. And I want you to know something. 2012, actually 2013, January 15th, every one of my friends came together and put on a show in my high school. Had 1,400 people and raised $15,000 and gave it to me right that night. It wouldn't take any pay, wouldn't take any gas money. We're talking Steve Carino, Lodi, Trevor Lee, which was Cameron, the guy that just got released from
Cameron
WWE.
Grimes.
He was there. Brad Attitude, Brad Green, Rebby Sky, which is Matt Hardy's wife. And let me think who else was there. Lodi, I said C.W. Anderson, Brad, and then James Storm flew in from Nashville. Didn't know him, had no idea who he was other than television. And he said, any friend of Shane's a friend of mine. And so he flew in on his own dime, and he came out, he wrestled. And the main event of the night was for Carino, Lodi, CW, and one more person. I can't remember. But anyway, they wrestled against Matt and Jeff Hardy, Hurricane Helms, and anyways, it was a four. Who was it? Anyway, I can't believe it. But it's Chinlock for Chuck. If you want to check it out, it was pretty amazing. But everybody came together for that. I want to put that over on your podcast because it was such a special night, and the fact that they did that, it didn't ask for nothing, and I'll never forget it. And until this day, I'll see Matt and Jeff. Until this day, 11 years later, I still tell them thank you. And I do it again for you, man. We were all there. We're all Carolina boys. We all wanted the same thing, and we're all started together in the same group, and in that Omega, and that they got that break, and we were all sure Shane got that break, and we're all happy every time somebody got a break. When Trevor got his break, and there's been more out of the Omega. Shane Helms, and Shannon Moore, and all the Joey Abs, which was Venom in our group, and everybody was kind of like a piece of us went with them, and so that was neat. So they did that show for me and raised that money, and we went on about our way, and without dragging this out too long, 2016, third time, 3 times, and by this time you run out of options. So the doctor said we're going to try an experimental thing, and I signed saying I'd do it. And so another transplant, and like I said, I don't want to get too medically talking, but for bone marrow transplant, you try to find a match. You've heard of that before, where they couldn't find a match. So they tried my brother, which was a half match, and that's why I had to sign papers saying, we're trying this at Duke. If you want to sign off, so anyway, I did, and it worked because I'm still here talking. So the Lord's been gracious to me, and I'm still here, and
yeah,
I'm very, 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 very thankful. It's been April 1st was 8 years, and like I said, we're foster parents now, and I'm doing that and trying to help. That's the way I help. You said at the beginning of the podcast, this is an uplifting, encouraging thing. I love the fact that you said that.
Thank you.
And my life is a testimony to that. And I just don't, like I said, I just like with Andre, I look back and think, wow, my life is it's so much. I should write a book, I guess. I don't know, but I'm able to do that, and like I said, stay in touch with wrestling by doing these shows, and being a handler for Kurt and for Steamboat and Lex and Arn Anderson and those guys, and being able to stay in touch with them that way, and it's pretty fun. And plus, there's no bumps involved, so it's great.
Yeah, you're keeping your toes still in the wrestling business, and you made all
Yeah.
these different connections.
Yeah.
The fact that you're able to still be with us is it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's I'm a very active. I'm a spiritual person. I believe without a shadow of a doubt. And my life was already this. This is what the Lord knew was that. This was my life was already planned out. If He's ready to take me home, I went home. But He has me here to help, and I believe my calling is to be able to help these children. We've had 17 placements in 13 years, so whether they were short term, long term, or whatever, we're able to help through the foster system and take care of these children and try to give them a good home and feed them and make sure they're taken care of while their parents work out their issues. And so it's it's pretty, it's a challenge, but it's also the same. It's rewarding as well. And with that, I'm able to also work at a homeless shelter. That's what I'm doing now because I was on disability for the cancer, and I said I cannot. If I'm able, I'm not going to sit home. I just not going to do it. So I've been there 2 years, and we're able to minister to the homeless, and here in Durham, at the Durham Rescue Mission. So we're able to care for them, and part of that program is just trying to get them straightened out. They come in with nothing, and we feed them, we house them, and try to give them direction, and have a program for them if they want to get in it, and steer them in the right way. And there's a lot of success to that too. It starts with me. I've got to want it. You got to look in the mirror and start with this guy and say, I'm going to make a difference today for the good. If we all did that, this place we wouldn't even need police. We wouldn't need, because if every single person in this universe looked in the mirror and said, I'm going to start with me and I'm going to make a difference for a positive way, positive reason, and you do it, then it's all good. But Michael Jackson sang a song years ago called Man in the Mirror, and it was a lot of truth to that song.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep. Starting with that man in the mirror. And if you do that, if we all did that, we'd be better off. But of course, I'm speaking from a man who's been beat cancer 3 times. So I've got a whole different outlook now. Wrestling was once my dream to make it to the top, be the Hulk Hogan or be the Stone Cold or whatever, and whatever. But now my priorities have changed dramatically. Don't regret anything I did, but now I just appreciate life so much more. And I'm thankful that I'm able to help serve in a different way, like I said, through fostering or whatever. So it's awesome. And my life's just a ministry now. I just like to do for others. And it's not bragging on me. I've done nothing, but it's all God. I couldn't do anything without his guidance and his grace, because as I talk to you right now, it's almost like I'm telling you things that really happened. And it's almost like I told my wife, if I wrote a book, tell everybody it's nonfiction, they wouldn't believe it, because everything about it is it's just a miracle after miracle. And it's pretty cool to be able to share my story. And thanks for letting me do that. I know it's about wrestling, but this is part of my life and what I did. And it steered me into a different focus, and, but like I said, I don't have any regrets. The wrestling business has been good to me. Met a lot of good people, fun people, and traveled, got to see the world. We did a couple of tours where I went overseas and was able to perform for the military troops and stuff. And I mean, it's a fun time. I mean, how many people get to go to Hawaii and get paid for it, right? So that was kind of cool. And hang out with the Rock and Roll Express and hang out with the sheep herders or bushwhackers. And we had a good crew, and that was fun. That was in 1999 and 2001. No, 2000, because 2001 was all the crazy trade center stuff. So it was a year before that. Yeah, for a while there, you couldn't leave the country because that was crazy. But we made it over and back, and been to Hawaii, been to Japan, Germany, Saudi Arabia, and Alaska. So we've been to a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean,
it was fun.
I mean, it's got to feel good whenever you see people, they run up to you, they remember you.
Yeah, they do. People, real diehard, hardcore, the ones that love WCW remember, because I wore red and white tights, and usually, even though a lot of people will remember you by what you wore, and so I wore those red and white those long tights most of the time, and they would even remember that where they were my face. Did you wear those red and white? And some guy says one time, he says, "Man, I always wanted you to win. I thought maybe you could do like the Monkeys and win one." I said, "Well, if they would have told me I could, I would have." But I was remembering when Sting wrestled and the Black Scorpion was talking over his matches. I was in WCW then. And one night I had to wrestle Sting, and they did the Scorpion, and Sting, blah 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 blah, and I'm selling something he did. Well, I'd sold it for like 30 seconds. It was only like a elbow or something simple. And I'm laying there, and I got up to hit him, And he said, "Stay down." And he hit me. And so I stayed down. And afterwards, I said, "Sorry about that." I said, "I didn't want to sell a punch, but so long. I didn't want, if you just sell it, I wouldn't hit him with, what do you hit him with? Brass knuckles." But he said, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay." I said, "Well, I didn't want to mess up during your match and stuff." So, but I mean, some of the moves, it's like after a minute, you're like, "How long am I going to stay down here?" People are going to be like, "What's wrong with him?" So, but Sting was trying to register, and Scorpion was talking, and he was trying to put that over. That was fun.
Yeah, so you were part of a really good time in the wrestling
Yeah.
business. It seems like you really enjoyed it. And you had mentioned earlier that you're a foster parent. When did you start getting involved
Yeah.
with that?
And that was a complete out of left field thing. I'll just don't want to drag it out, but I'll get to the point. There, I went through a divorce in 1994, and there's never a divorce is not good, but there are civil divorces where you can work things with yourself, keep the court out of it, keep lawyers out of it. We did, and me and my ex-wife got along well. We had one son together. So, long story short, she remarried. She goes on with her life, and she had 3 girls, and so in they did her thing. We were all, after a while, you become friends if you get along okay. Well, she made some bad decisions and lost the children. I don't have to say anything else. When the state takes your kids, usually it's drug related, but um, she made some bad decisions, to say it nicely, and lost her children. Well, nobody in the immediate family wanted to step up. So guess who they called? They called me. Said, "Well, you just keep it. It'll be short term." And my ex sister in law had called, and my wife, the awesome woman that she is, they said, just take one. We just want to get them into people's houses they know." She said, "Take one. We're gonna take all 3." I said, "You lost your mind." But anyway, we took all 3 of them in 2011, and then right in the middle of my second cancer bout. And so that's how it started, to kind of answer your question. And from then on, everybody just moved out recently. They graduated, we did, got them through high school and middle school, and so they went on about their own. Now they're doing their thing, and one of them's got my grandbaby, raising the kid on their own, and proud of them. So they came from a shelter themselves, and not knowing the next day where they were going to eat, to be able to becoming into foster care. And so we took them, and that just started it right there. And we thought, well, maybe this is a calling, So then another kid they call. There's so many kids out there, and we didn't realize the need until we did that. And now it's like, fast forward 13 years, and that's how it started. It started completely by accident. And most people these days, when you mention fostering, that you think of an animal, you think of a dog or whatever. Well, there's plenty of kids out there that are in need, and it's not their fault, because a lot of them aren't even old enough to. I mean, we've got a 4-month-old baby right now. We got a 10-year-old little boy, and at the moment, and then they could call tomorrow with somebody else. So you can only have, unless they're siblings, they only can stay in one room. Like, we got 4 bedrooms. We've got one. There's 3 others, so we got right now 2 are open. We can get 2 more kids, but now if the sisters, they can stay in the same room. So we'll just see. We rarely say no, and so, but it's a challenge in itself. You have to have patience. You got to have a heart to do it, because it's not everybody can handle it. It's my kids are grown. Our kids are in their 30s. They're doing their thing. It's kind of hard to start back over, but
No.
sometimes I feel like that's the purpose I'm still here with the cancer. And I really believe God needed me to be a part of this. And a matter of fact, I know He did. And He spared me for some reason. And that's my reason. That's my purpose, is to help in one shape, way, perform. You can have a ministry, whether you're a preacher, whether you're a missionary, no matter what you do, you can have a ministry. And we got a ministry right here in our house. And we try to teach them upright and steer them in the right direction, and they go to church with us, and just do things that are they were missing. Not that. I mean, eventually they're gonna make their own decisions, but right now, we're just trying to do what's best for them. And so it's it's been pretty neat overall. Like I said, 13 years now, and ups and downs, highs and lows, but we're still doing it, and like I said, things change in your life. Your dream to be a wrestler when you're young, and then things happen and circumstances happen, and you get on the other side of that with the cancer, and then it's like, okay, I've got a purpose now, and I've done my thing. I've lived my dream of wrestling, and now what do you have for me, Lord? And this is it. And so we're all in. She's all in. I'm all in, and it's basically whatever we can do to make a difference and help these children. So
Definitely seems very rewarding too.
it is, and you know, it it's I don't know. I guess people always, when they find out, they're not our biological children. Oh, they're not. So no, they're our foster kids. People are always like, "Daddy, you're such a special." It's all, but they don't understand. These kids are a blessing to us. We don't look at it as, uh, yeah, we'll do it like it's a job. If you look at it as a job, you need to do something else because you don't make the state. They compensate you, but by the time you put diapers and you feed them and you take them to school, I mean, you really, this ain't about making a dollar. This is because you have a passion to do this and to help, and that's where it starts because it's not convenient at all. We could easily be done. And she's 55, I'm 57. We could be done. Everybody's out of the house, and we could live life, But now we have to include them in everything we do because that's part of the responsibility that we chose to take. And it's not a problem either. We have a good time doing it, and it's a passion. It's a passion for helping. You just have to. It's either you have it or you don't, and it's everybody's got a reason in life. Everybody's got a purpose.
Well, why
And
do you feel
I just do
passionate?
because I'm passionate in a different way because I'm here to, with my history of my life and going through all that I went through with the sickness. I just have a passion to live. I have a passion to do the right thing and to make a difference. And whether it's working with the homeless shelter, which I'm a part of, or whether it's helping raise these children, it's nothing to do with cancer per se, but it's a way to give back, and it makes me feel it's satisfying to me knowing that I'm making a difference, maybe in a different way. I mean, I get calls on occasion. Somebody's found out they've just diagnosed a relative or something, and that's what did you do? How did you handle it? And I'll talk to them, and all I can do is give them my story. They're going to handle it the way they want to handle it, but all I can do is share my story and and I've got a spiritual. I had a spiritual. Everything about it. I was in, here I am, Lord. At this time, I just submitted. I said, I mean, this is my time to go. It's my time to go. But he saw fit to keep me around, and once again, it's just like a storybook, and I'm just thankful to be able to sit here and talk to you about it because I'm
Yeah.
still on the right side of the dirt. They say,
Well, maybe we'll see that book written one day. I think that's
Yeah,
a very inspiring story that you've shared with me. And Chuck, I want to say thank you very much for coming on the show. It means a lot to me, to my listeners and viewers.
yeah,
Where can people find more about you on social media if they want to get in
Well, if they
touch?
want to watch my wrestling, just put in Chuck Coates wrestler. It'll come up. There's 15 or 20 of my matches that have been put on there from WCW. The Andre matches on there. But put Chuck Coates, COATES, and then put wrestler in the YouTube search. It'll pop right up. And it's got my testimony on there. It's got other podcasts I've done uh, with certain people wanting to know specifics about certain matches. And so, go for it. It's pretty neat. I mean, I've been doing podcasts now about 3 years, not regularly, but maybe 5 or 6 a year, maybe 7 or 8. I don't know, but I love doing them. I'm glad you asked me to jump on. But
Absolutely, of
there,
course.
pretty much. I mean, other than that, we've got that ministry in Durham with the homeless shelters, Durham Rescue Mission. If anybody ever wants more information about that, we got a website, DurhamRescueMission.org, and that'll tell you. I'm on the website, but I mean, that's a different side of my life now. But uh, you know, it's like you said, rewarding to be able to give back in a different way, and knowing that if you have an impact in a positive way in somebody's life, it just encourages you to do it more, and when you see people come in broken like that and with nothing, I mean, what they have is what they got on their back, and wanting help. Then if we can give them that help they need, then that just makes and they accept it. Nothing like it, man. I mean, I tell people, we wrestle. I wrestled. And one of the scriptures is 6:12, Ephesians. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We'll see. I wrestled against flesh and blood, and now my life is fast forwarded, and now we're wrestling against, spiritually wrestling against the devil on a daily basis. I tell these guys, that's the fight. That's where we're going to take it to him, because he ain't going to let up, and he's going to try to drag you down, especially if they're drug addicts and they're coming in trying to get help, because a lot of them are just trying to get clean. So you got to make a change. Like I said, you got to look at you and say, I want to do this, and take advantage of the resources we have and do it. And that's a challenge in itself, because so many of them go back out there in the world, and it's sad because they'll get the people they hang out with are not the best influences. So, but anyway, back to your question, that's pretty much it. YouTube, Chuck Coates, wrestler, it'll come up, some testimonies and some matches. Pretty cool. And then DurhamRescueMission.org is where I'm at now. And I got an email on there. If anybody wants to contact me, that's great. So,
well, Chuck, thanks. Chuck, thanks again, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Take care.
You too.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.